The aged projector whirred to life in the frigid Alaskan bunker, casting a sickly light upon the concrete wall. General Hammond's weathered face remained impassive as the first slide clicked into place. The three personnel selected for the mission, Dr. Thaddeus Waite, Colonel Nikolai Danilovich, and Dr. Irina Volkova, leaned forward in unison. "Gentlemen," Hammond began, his voice grave as the permafrost beneath their feet, "what I'm about to show you has been classified beyond top secret. The Soviets shared these images with us 6 months ago, after their Lunik 19 mission. Their cosmonaut, Alexei Kuznetsov, transmitted these before all communication ceased." The first image flickered onto the wall. The desolate lunar surface, pockmarked and gray, unremarkable save for what appeared to be a jagged fissure in the regolith, its edges unnaturally sharp. This was taken near the far side, in a crater we've designated Terminus. The Russians had detected unusual radiation signatures from this location. Kuznetsov was sent to investigate. The next slide materialized. The same fissure closer now. Something about its geometry unsettled the eye, as if the angles refused to conform to Euclidean mathematics. These next images were transmitted approximately 47 minutes later. The third slide showed the fissure from mere yards away. The blackness within was not the absence of light, but something that seemed to devour it. Around its edges, the lunar dust appeared to be vibrating, arranged in patterns that hinted at some terrible symmetry. The radiation readings spiked here. Hammond continued, his clinical tone belying the horror of what they were witnessing. Kuznetsov reported auditory hallucinations despite being in vacuum. The fourth slide elicited an involuntary gasp from Waite. The fissure had changed. It now pulsated with an impossible luminescence, neither blue nor green, but somehow both and neither, emanating from what appeared to be an infinity symbol suspended within the void. This is where Kuznetsov reported seeing movement. His vital signs became erratic. The fifth slide showed the edge of the fissure, now expanded, with what might have been a tendril, or perhaps a limb, extending forth, composed of the same non-light as the symbol. His final transmission came 17 seconds later. We believe he is still alive. The sixth slide appeared, and Dr. Volkov muttered something in Russian that might have been a prayer. The image showed Kuznetsov's gloved hand reaching toward the anomaly. while the other hand held the camera. The anomaly had grown, and within its depths, vague silhouettes could be discerned, forms that suggested awareness, intelligence, hunger. His last words were, "It speaks between thoughts. It knows we've always been here." The projector clicked to the final slide. Static, distortion, and in the corner, a single line of Cyrillic text, hastily scrawled on the image itself. Ono neodinoko. It is not alone. Hammond switched on the lights. 3 days ago, our orbital reconnaissance detected movement at the Terminus site. The anomaly has grown. And yesterday, we received this. He placed a small tape recorder on the table and pressed play. A whisper emerged, barely audible.
Отправьте их. Порог требует завершения. Симметрия должна быть завершена.
Speaking in Russian, but somehow understood by all present. Send them. The threshold requires completion. The symmetry must be made whole. It was Kuznetsov's voice, or something wearing it. Gentlemen, Hammond concluded, in 48 hours you launch aboard Saturn 5EX. Your mission? Determine the nature of this anomaly and, if possible, seal it. The Soviets are providing the advanced containment equipment developed at Chelyabinsk. We're supplying the delivery system and Dr. Waite's expertise in theoretical physics. Dr. Waite finally spoke, his voice trembling. And if we can't seal it? Hammond's eyes grew distant. Then you must understand it. Because whatever is bleeding through that tear in reality, it's becoming aware of us. All of us. The Saturn VX rose like a phantom from the hidden Alaskan launch facility, its thunderous roar muffled by the remote location and the swirling Arctic winds. Within its modified command module, christened Cerberus in a moment of grim humor, Thaddeus Waite clutched his restraints as acceleration pressed him into his seat. Beside him, Colonel Danilovich maintained a stoic calm, born of years in Soviet military service, while Dr. Volkova muttered calculations under her breath, as if mathematics might provide sanctuary from the cosmic horror that awaited them. They had been selected for complementary traits, Waite for his unorthodox theories on interspatial physics, Danilovich for his unflinching resolve and combat experience, and Volkova for her brilliant work on radiation and its effects on organic tissue. None had been told the full truth until yesterday. As Earth's atmosphere thinned around them, Waite found his thoughts drawn inexorably to the images from the projector, the tear in reality, the symbol that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent, the words of the lost cosmonaut. It speaks between thoughts. Dr. Waite, Danilovich's accented voice cut through his reverie. Your pulse is elevated. The mission requires clarity of mind. Waite nodded, forcing himself to regulate his breathing as they had been trained. I was considering the nature of the anomaly. If my theories are correct, what we're witnessing isn't just a tear in space. It's a puncture in the membrane between dimensions. Volkova ceased her muttering. You suggest this is a doorway? I suggest it's worse, Waite replied. A doorway implies intention, construction. This is more akin to a wound, festering and expanding, and something is seeping through the infection. The Russian scientists exchanged glances that betrayed their shared unease. Then we are not explorers, Danilovich observed coldly, but surgeons sent to cauterize. As Cerberus achieved orbit and began its 3-day journey to the moon, the crew settled into a routine of preparation and study. Waite pored over the equations that described the theoretical boundaries between dimensions. Volkova analyzed the radiation patterns detected around the anomaly. Danilovich familiarized himself with the specialized equipment they carried, devices designed not for exploration, but for containment. On the second day, Waite awoke gasping from a dream in which non-Euclidean geometries folded around him like grasping hands. He found Volkova already awake, staring out the small viewport at the stars. "They move," Volkova whispered without turning. "What moves?" Waite asked, drifting toward the viewport. "The stars. They shift when you do not focus directly upon them, as if they are anticipating." Waite said nothing, but he had noticed it too. A subtle wrongness in the cosmos, as if reality itself were being slowly rewritten by proximity to their destination. By the third day, all 3 crew members had developed a persistent headache that no medication could touch. Their dreams were plagued by the infinity symbol from the anomaly, and they found themselves drawing it unconsciously on whatever surfaces were at hand. As the lunar surface grew in their viewports, tensions that had been simmering below the surface suddenly erupted. According to mission protocols, Dr. Volkova and I will conduct the lunar excursion, while Dr. Waite maintains orbital command, Danilovich stated, checking his instruments. Waite's expression hardened. "With all due respect, Colonel, I'm not letting Dr. Volkova face whatever is down there." "This is not a matter for discussion," Danilovich replied coldly. "The protocols were agreed upon by both agencies." "Damn the protocols," Waite said, his voice quiet but firm. "I've seen what that thing did to Kuznetsov. I'm going down." "I am perfectly capable," Volkova began, her pride wounded. "This isn't about capability," Waite interrupted. "It's about—" He hesitated, then straightened. "It's about doing what's right." The comm system crackled to life. "Cerberus, this is Control. What's the holdup on landing preparations?" After a tense silence, Danilovich leaned toward the comm. "Control, Danilovich here. Dr. Waite is insisting on replacing Dr. Volkova for the surface excursion." The response was immediate and heated. General Hammond's voice boomed through the speakers. "Negative. Stick to the mission parameters, Doctor." A Russian voice, Director Baranov, cut in. "What is the meaning of this, American?" To everyone's surprise, it was Danilovich who responded. "With respect, Director, I support Dr. Waite's decision. The American has, what do you call them, balls of steel." The silence from Control was deafening. Finally, Director Baranov's laughter echoed through the comm. "At least some Americans still remember what it means to be a man. Very well, Hammond. Let your boy prove himself." Hammond's reluctant consent came through gritted teeth. "Wait, if you survive this insubordination, I'll have your career." "Understood, sir," Waite replied simply. As Volkova relinquished her position with obvious frustration, Danilovich and Waite donned their specialized pressure suits, modified versions of the standard NASA design, reinforced against radiation and incorporating Soviet sensors that could detect dimensional disturbances. Cerberus touched down 3 kilometers from Terminus Crater under the automated guidance system. Through the viewports, the lunar landscape appeared mundane, almost disappointingly so, until one looked toward the horizon where Terminus lay. There the stars seemed to bend slightly, as if light itself were being drawn into the crater. "It has grown," Volkova observed from orbit, checking her instruments. "The radiation signature has expanded by 37% since the last measurement." As they prepared to disembark, Waite found himself staring at his gloved hands, overcome by a strange sense of déjà vu. He had seen these hands before, reaching toward the anomaly. Had he dreamt it? Or was time itself becoming unstable in proximity to the tear? "It's calling us," he whispered, then flinched as he realized he had spoken aloud. Danilovich's stern gaze fixed upon him through the helmet visor. "Doctor, wait, are you compromised?" Waite forced himself to focus. "Number, but we must be prepared. Whatever intelligence lies beyond that threshold, it desires contact. It arranged for us to be here." "Impossible," Volkova's voice came through the comm from orbit. "The anomaly was only discovered months ago." "Time," Waite replied, "may be meaningless to entities existing outside our dimensional constraints. What if it has always been there, waiting for minds capable of perceiving it? What if our discovery was merely its awakening?" The hatch opened, and the vacuum of the lunar surface greeted them. Silent, patient, indifferent to the cosmic drama about to unfold. As they descended to the regolith, their helmet lights illuminated their immediate surroundings, but darkness loomed beyond. Darkness and the subtle distortion on the horizon that marked their destination. "We proceed as planned," Danilovich commanded. "Maintain formation, observe protocols." They began their journey across the barren surface, each bounding step bringing them closer to Terminus Crater, closer to the tear between worlds, closer to the being that had once been Alexei Kuznetsov, closer to the truth that would shatter their understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. The approach to Terminus Crater tested the sanity of the two men. With each step towards the rim, the laws of physics seemed increasingly to be mere suggestions rather than immutable constants. Their shadows stretched and contracted in impossible ways, despite the unchanging angle of the sun. The lunar dust beneath their boots sometimes appeared to flow like liquid before resolving back into solid matter. From orbit, Volkova's instruments registered radiation patterns that fluctuated in perfect mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci spirals, and other less recognizable patterns that nonetheless hinted at intelligence. "You are being observed," she announced through the comm system, her scientific detachment fraying at the edges. "These emanations are reactive. They change in response to your movements, your thoughts." Danilovich, ever the soldier, maintained their course. "Stay focused. We have a mission." When they reached the crater's edge, they beheld the full horror of what awaited them. The tear had expanded tremendously since Kuznetsov's images. It now dominated the crater floor, a roughly oval-shaped wound in reality, approximately 70 meters across. Its edges pulsated with that same unlight, neither blue nor green, but somehow both, emanating from within. And suspended in its center, growing more distinct as they watched, was the infinity symbol. Or perhaps not a symbol at all, but a living entity whose form merely resembled the mathematical notation for infinity. It twisted and writhed, its substance neither matter nor energy, but something altogether alien. "My God," Waite breathed. "It's a conduit, a living bridge between dimensions." But as his gaze swept across the crater floor, he grew still, his breath catching in his throat. For arrayed in a perfect circle around the anomaly were pressure suits, American and Soviet designs alike. Some pristine, others damaged, but all eerily empty of their occupants, or so it seemed at first. "Danilovich," he whispered, "do you see them?" The Russian was silent for a long moment before responding, his voice unnaturally level. "I count 38 suits, 17 Soviet, 21 American." 38, Volkova echoed from orbit, her voice hollow with dawning comprehension. "That matches exactly the number of classified lunar missions both our countries have conducted since 1964. "No," Waite said, his mind refusing the implications. "That's not possible. That would mean, Danilovich finished for him, that we were never meant to return." As the horror of their situation settled into their consciousness, the pressure suits around the anomaly began to stir, not as empty vessels animated by some unseen force, but as things that only superficially resembled human form. The visors of each helmet remained dark, but within that darkness points of light swirled, countless motes that recalled the cold fire of distant stars. From the center of the anomaly, the Kuznetsov thing emerged, its form both solid and liquid, there and not there, its movements a mockery of human locomotion. "You begin to understand," it said, its voice bypassing their ears to resonate directly in their minds. "Your governments have known of the symmetry for decades. They have fed it, nurtured it, sustained it with tribute." "Tribute," Waite repeated, the word ashen in his mouth. "Each successful mission to your moon required balance, a gift freely given to maintain cosmic equilibrium. Your countries compete in public while collaborating in the shadows, sending us your finest minds that we might prepare the way." From orbit, Volkova's desperate voice came through. "The radiation signature is changing. It's..." Her transmission cut off abruptly. In the command module, tendrils of that same unlight had somehow manifested, slithering through the walls of Cerberus as if the metal were merely a suggestion. Volkova's scream cut through the comms, then transformed into something else, a sound of ecstatic revelation that was somehow more terrifying than her fear. "Volkova," Waite shouted. "Irina, come in." When her voice returned, it was altered, resonant with harmonics that shouldn't exist in human vocal cords. "I see." The thing that had been Volkova whispered. "I see everything." Danilovich drew the emergency weapon he had concealed in his suit, a last resort never meant to be used. "Wait, retreat to the module. We can't go back," Waite said, his voice hollow. "She's there. It's there, everywhere." Through the comm, they could hear Volkova's transformed voice reciting mathematical sequences that made no sense yet felt profoundly, terribly right. From the horizon, her figure appeared, moving across the lunar surface without the bouncing gait that lunar gravity demanded, her suit already beginning to transform, chitinous growths emerging from the fabric. The pressure-suited things around the anomaly had risen now, 38 blasphemous approximations of human form, their movements synchronized as they turned toward Waite and Danilovich. Among them, Waite recognized with nauseating clarity the suit patterns of classified missions he had helped design, Artemis, Helios, Selene, each a secret flight, each officially recorded as a training accident or launch failure. "Our governments," he whispered, "they've been feeding you. For what? What have they gained?" The Kuznetsov thing gestured and the tier in reality expanded a fraction. Time, knowledge, power. The nations that serve the symmetry prosper, their enemies falter, their scientists glimpse truths beyond human comprehension. A fair exchange, they believe. "And now we're just 2 more sacrifices," Danilovich said, his weapon wavering between the approaching figures. "No," said the Kuznetsov thing. "You are the culmination, the final components. With you, the symmetry will be complete, and the transformation can begin in earnest." Waite felt his mind recoiling from what his eyes perceived. The being before them existed partially in their reality and partially elsewhere. Its edges blurred and shifted, revealing glimpses of anatomies that defied comprehension. The 38 transformed astronauts and cosmonauts formed a circle around them now, and from the direction of the landing module, the Volkova thing approached, her movements perfectly synchronized with the others. All were connected, parts of a single consciousness that transcended individual identity. Waite looked up at the Earth hanging in the void above them, beautiful, fragile, and utterly unaware of the cosmic horror unfolding on its satellite. The governments that had sent them here had known. They had participated in this obscene ritual for decades, feeding their best and brightest to this thing while reaping the rewards of forbidden knowledge. In that moment, as the unlight began to reach for him and Danilovich, something broke within Waite's mind, not into madness but into a terrible clarity. He laughed, a sound so human, so incongruous in this place of cosmic terror, that even the Kuznetsov thing paused. "I understand now," Waite said, straightening to his full height, facing the entity directly. "I see what you are." The Kuznetsov thing tilted its head at an impossible angle. "You see nothing human. Your mind cannot comprehend my true nature." "Oh, but I do," Waite replied, stepping forward even as Danilovich hissed a warning. "You call yourself the Symmetry. You speak of cosmic balance and transcendence. You parade your knowledge of dimensions beyond our understanding. But I see you clearly." The unlight around the entity flickered, almost like hesitation. "You need us," Waite continued, his voice growing stronger. "With all your power, all your knowledge of the cosmos, you still need us. And not just any of us. You need the exact ones we send you. You're bound by rules, aren't you? Rules you didn't create." "You understand nothing," the entity responded, but there was something new in its voice, perhaps the cosmic equivalent of uncertainty. "Here's what I understand," Waite said, now only meters from the Kuznetsov thing. "Why do you need a sacrifice when you are the one making the rules? I'll give you the answer. You think your knowledge of cosmos and quantum dimensional metaphysical powers make you some kind of an ancient god. But let this insect tell you this. You are no different than us." The unlight pulsed angrily now, the infinity symbol at the center of the tear writhing more violently. "Because you and I both enjoy playing games with the weak ones and take delight in their despair," Waite continued, his voice now carrying an almost hypnotic cadence. "We are pathetic in the same way. Nothing will change that. Even your ancient knowledge didn't let you evolve out of it. You hide in the shadows like the cockroach you really are." The Kuznetsov thing recoiled as if struck. Around them, the circle of transformed astronauts wavered, their perfect synchronicity momentarily disrupted. "You are not a god," Waite said, his voice now terribly soft. "You're just another predator, another parasite. More powerful, yes. More knowledgeable, certainly. But at your core, you're driven by the same petty desires as the humans you so disdain. You crave domination. You revel in our fear. You're a cosmic bully, nothing more." The entity surged forward with sudden fury, its form distorting into something that should not exist in three-dimensional space. "You know nothing," it roared. the sound bypassing their auditory systems to resonate directly in their minds. But Waite stood his ground, even as he felt the unlight begin to seep into his suit, into his skin, into his very atoms. "I know enough," he whispered. "I know you're afraid. Not of us as individuals, but of what we represent. Potential, evolution, the possibility that one day we might become what you fear, your equals, or perhaps your replacements." The unlight enveloped him completely now, and Waite felt his consciousness expanding beyond human limitations. He saw too much, understood too much. Civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds, entities whose mere existence bent the fabric of reality, the pattern, the symmetry, incomplete yet yearning for completion. Yet even as his humanity dissolved, Thaddeus Waite clung to one final defiant truth, that this vast, ancient entity, for all its power and knowledge, was imprisoned by its own nature just as surely as humanity was imprisoned by theirs. As his awareness expanded beyond individual identity, merging with the 38 who had come before, and with Danilovich and Volkova who joined him now, Waite's last coherent thought was not of defeat, but of a strange, terrible victory. For he had seen the entity clearly, named it for what it truly was, and in doing so, had planted the seed of something it had never anticipated: doubt. The footage recovered from the lunar module, Cerberus ends here, the last transmission showing 3 transformed figures converging toward the expanding tear in reality, their forms gradually becoming one with the undulating infinity symbol at its center. July 20th, 1969, Mare Tranquillitatis, Sea of Tranquility. Houston Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. Neil Armstrong's voice crackled through mission control, prompting muted cheers and sighs of relief. 6 hours later, as he prepared to descend the ladder of the lunar module, millions watched their television screens in anticipation.
Getting back up to that first step. That isn't collapsed too far, but it's adequate to get back up.
Roger, we copy.
It's a pretty good little jump.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Neil, we can see you coming. Okay, I just checked. Getting back up to that first step. That isn't collapsed too far, but it's one small step for man.
"That's one small step for man," Armstrong began as his boot touched the lunar surface. "One giant leap for..." His voice cut out momentarily in what would later be attributed to a transmission glitch. What the public didn't hear, what only 3 technicians in a sealed room at Houston heard before the feed was permanently scrubbed, was Armstrong's sudden intake of breath, followed by, "There's something here. About 200 meters east. It looks like figures. Houston, do you copy? There appear to be 41 figures watching us." In the sealed room, the technicians looked at each other in grim acknowledgement as Armstrong continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They're not moving. They seem to be waiting. Their suits look wrong. My God. What happened to their..." Armstrong's breathing became labored. After 17 seconds of silence, his voice returned, calm and measured. "Houston, disregard my last transmission. Momentary disorientation from the descent. I understand now." The broadcast resumed as if nothing had happened.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Armstrong continued his scripted lines, collected samples, planted the flag. The 3 technicians were separated, debriefed, and assigned to different NASA facilities. The mission proceeded flawlessly, but in private NASA records declassified 50 years later, a curious note was found in the margins of the transcript written in General Hammond's hand. "They're changing. The symmetry is changing. Waite did something. God help us all." And in Armstrong's personal journal, found after his death and quickly confiscated, a single page contained nothing but a roughly sketched infinity symbol beneath which he had written, "I saw them." 41 transformed humans surrounding Terminus Crater. But they weren't waiting for a sacrifice. They were waiting for a witness. And in their collective gaze, I sensed not hunger, but something wholly unexpected: defiance. In observatories across the world, astronomers note subtle changes in the moon's albedo, patterns of light and shadow that seem to form momentary hypnotic spirals before resolving back to normal. In the dreams of humanity, a new motif emerges, an infinity symbol, twisted and alive. But unlike before, those who dream of it no longer feel only terror. They feel something else, something that the entity never intended to impart. A question. For in his final moments of humanity, Dr. Thaddeus Waite had done what no sacrifice before him had managed. He had seen the entity clearly, named its true nature, and in doing so, infected it with the most dangerous thing a cosmic predator can encounter: self-awareness. And as it watches and waits and hungers, the void between worlds finds itself, for the first time in eons, doing something else, doubting,